Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. My current obsession, if anyone was wondering, my current TV show obsession, Beverly Hills 90210. I am indeed in love with Brandon Walsh. And yeah, it's all I've been thinking about for the past few days. Anyway, the weather is gorgeous today and I'm in such a good mood, and I am back with another video for you guys. And yes, it is Taylor Swift themed, because I love doing Taylor Swift content. I think it's so fun, and my friends kind of helped me with this one, so we kind of collaborated. So shout out to my friends Emma and Allison for helping me out. So you can see by the title, I'm going to be comparing Taylor Swift songs, specifically folklore and evermore songs, because those are the ones that are the most fictitious to movies and TV shows that I love and enjoy. And yeah, I thought it would be a really cool concept, mainly because I don't have anything else to compare them to, and folklore and evermore are fiction for the most part. I think it's kind of cool to be able to compare them to other stories that already exist and ones that maybe even inspired the song. We'll never know. Also, the sun is setting, so if the lighting is weird, then I'm sorry. Okay, so first I'm going to start with Tolerate It. So this song reminds me so much of The Crown and Princess Diana and Charles's relationship in general. And if you have seen The Crown, you probably think about The Crown too when you listen to this song. I feel like TikTok collectively thinks this song reminds them of The Crown, like me and my friends do. I picked out some lyrics from this song that I think match their situation in the show really well. According to the lyrics that I'm about to explain to you, I think it's from Princess Diana's perspective in the show. And some of the lyrics are, "You're so much older and wiser," and Charles is older. And I guess he's wiser because he's older and he's like a royal, so he kind of knows his way around the royal system. I greet you with the battle heroes welcome. Diana is very, forgiving in that show, in the first season that she appears in, and she's very generous and like bows down to Charles. And then, "I made you my temple, my mural, my skies, and now I'm begging for footnotes in the story of your life." First of all, that lyric hurts, but I think it relates because like Diana gave everything. Diana like gave it her all, and she went into this royal family and did what they said and all of this stuff. And I don't know, I think the Crown gives us a very good like visual representation of this song, which I love. Okay, so next I want to do Ivy. So I was listening to Ivy the other day, trying to think of what song would remind me of or what movie would remind me of Ivy, and I came up with one of my faves, which is Titanic. I actually have Titanic on here twice, but we'll get to the second song a little later. So you guys, some of the lyrics from Ivy that I think remind me of Titanic. It's a little, if you guys didn't know, Titanic is my favorite movie, so I think about this movie a lot. So one of the lyrics is, "My pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand," which like, it's a stretch, but like it reminds me like it reminds me of like Jack being in the cold water. The lighting is getting so weird, I am so sorry. "My house of stone, your ivy grows, and now I'm covered in you." I just think that that lyric, just like within that 3-hour time span of the movie, they're completely just like in love with each other, and I think that depicts that very well. And then the lyric, "Taking mine, but it's been promised to another." I think this reminds me of Rose and how she is engaged to Cal. His name's Cal, right? Yeah, I think his name's Cal. She's engaged to Cal, but like she wants to be with Jack. Yes. And he's gonna burn this house to the ground. That kind of just reminds me of like how Cal just like hates Jack. And obviously this song is inspired by the Titanic. Like I know that like she didn't watch the Titanic and Taylor wasn't like, "Let me write this song." It just like some of the lyrics remind me of it. Next is the song 7 from Folklore. The second I heard this song, it instantly reminded me of the Bridge to Terabithia. Like the second that I was reacting to it, I was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me so much of the Bridge to Terabithia. When I was talking to my friends about this one, my friend Allison was like, "It reminds me of a Disney coming of age movie." And I was like, yes, the Bridge to Terabithia. I just think the vibe of it in general is very like airy, and that movie is just very like, ooh, yay, until the sad part. But There's a lot of lyrics in here that really remind me of the British Terabithia and kind of depict the vibe of it well. Like, please picture me in the trees. Yes. The swing over the creek. When I heard that, I was like, there's literally a swing over the creek. And like the whole idea of the song is about like a childhood friend and like playing with your childhood friend and like doing all of these like fantasy things, which is pretty much that movie. Next is Nobody No Crime, which I couldn't really find a movie for, and I don't have all of the songs on here. I have a lot of them from Folklore and Evermore, but my friend Emma was like, Nobody No Crime should be Criminal Minds, because obviously. So the next one is The One, the song The One, which is my favorite song from Folklore. A lot when I tell people that, they're like, that's your favorite song, but it literally is. I love that song so much. And this one reminds me of La La Land, which is my second favorite movie ever, and there are so many freaking lyrics that remind me of this song, and my friend Allison's like, yes, like this has to be La La Land. So some of the lyrics are, the greatest films of all time were never made, you know the greatest loves of all time are over now. That hurt. That hurt. We were something, don't you think so? I had this dream, you're having adventures on your own. Like, I think I could see that from both Seb's perspective and, why can't I always just want to call her Emma, and it's literally not her name, Mia. I can see that from Seb's perspective and Mia's perspective, because Seb is like living his dream and Mia's living her dream, and they're having adventures on their own. And then I also think that the song could relate to Gilmore Girls. I'm just a really big Jess and Rory fan. So like the lyrics, having adventures on your own, kind of reminds me of them when, you know, Jess is writing his own book and Rory pre-downfall is living her life, and like the vibe of it really kind of matches, I guess. The next one is Champagne Problems. This one reminds me of Little Women so much. Okay, so Little Women is my third favorite movie, funnily enough, and it really reminds me of Champagne Problems. There's a few lyrics that I specifically wrote down, but this is pretty much kind of relating mainly to the proposal scene. Okay, so dropped your hand while dancing, and Lori and Joe in the beginning of the movie dance outside of like where the party thing is. So cute. I left you out there standing. Joe literally leaves Lori out there standing in the field after she rejects his proposal. You told your family for a reason. I think this kind of reminds me of the line where he's like, you know, why does my grandpa expect it? Why does your family expect it? Like, meaning like, why does their families expect them to be married? Evergreen, our group of friends. This kind of just reminds me of like their childhood and how the sisters and Lori were all really super close and always would like play outside and do fun little things. And then the big one, till someone's on their knees and asks you, she would have made such a lovely bride, what a shame she's in the head, they said. This is like the epitome, I feel like, that really reminds me of that movie, because Lori proposes and like Joe never even thought like about them getting married at all, which is so terrible. And she's like, no, like she realizes like, no, that's not what she wants. And I think that she thinks that she's like crazy, and you know, Joe is very against the status quo, which is why she's such a cool character and someone that a lot of girls look up to. What a shame she's messed in the head is a really good example of that line. Whole ending part of the song that talks about like how you'll find someone else and you won't even remember my champagne problems relates to Lori and Amy, unfortunately. Like Joe's perspective in relation to like what Amy is gonna give Lori. Moving on. Next one is A Cowboy Like Me. This song took me so long to like comprehend, and I don't think that I've comprehended it still. Like, I don't know what it is about that song. It's such a good song. It's definitely grown on me. I didn't really like it that much when it first came out, if I'm being honest. But I saw a TikTok the other day that was comparing this song to Titanic, and all of a sudden I like understood it way more than I did before. And there's just a lot of, oh gosh, there's just a lot of moments in this song that really remind me of Titanic way more than Ivy does. and I'm going to share that with you. So whoever came up with this idea on TikTok, if I can find the TikTok, I will link it down below. But if I can't, and you know, oh sorry, my air just kicked on. But if I can't and you know who, like, you saw this TikTok, please put it in the comments. So you're a cowboy like me, perched in the dark, telling all the rich folks anything they want to hear, like it could be love. This kind of reminds me of like how, you know, especially when Jack's like sitting, the TikTok used the scene of like when Jack was sitting at the dinner table, when Rose invited him to dinner, and like he was the odd man out, but he still was talking to the rich people, like how he would, you know, talk if he was rich. The line "eyes full of stars" reminds me of Titanic simply because one of my favorite movie lines ever is "where to, miss, to the stars." It says, hustling for the good life, never thought I'd meet you here, it could be love, we could be the way for it, we could be the way forward, and I know I'll pay for it. This is just like, you know, this reminds me of it because hustling for the good life, Rose thinks, you know, the good life is what her family has planned for her, and then she's like, never thought I'd meet you here, you know, never thought I would meet someone on the Titanic, it could be love, we could be the way forward, meaning, you know, she very much is adamant that she wants to live the rest of her life with Jack, and I know I'll pay for it, and she will pay for it because she's deceiving her family, and she pays for it through Jack's death. And then in the ladies lunching, having their stories about when you passed through town, that movie is very gossipy amongst the richer, older women. The line "forever is the sweetest con," like, ugh, that just matches them so well. And says "I'm never gonna love again" 3 times. And even though Rose does end up loving again, she at the end goes back to Jack and like what you could picture as heaven or the afterlife or something like that. So yeah. Okay, the next one, I have 2 movies for thanks to my friends. Actually, one of them I've always related to this movie, but the other one I never really thought about, and it hurt. So the song "Happiness," which is my favorite, one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs ever. I think it's beautiful, but it is my favorite from Evermore. It literally hurts me, it's so good. But this song I always related to Gatsby just because there's so many Gatsby references. I definitely think she was inspired by Gatsby in some sense. I know that like it's not a song about the Great Gatsby, but I think that there's so many lines in it that are inspired by Gatsby that you can't just like say it's not. So the Gatsby references in this song are numerous. One is "I hope she'll be a beautiful fool." That is a literal like line. Like beautiful fool is in the Great Gatsby. It's beautiful little fool, but like still. Oh, another part that really reminds me is "Across our great divide there is a glorious sunrise dappled with the flickers of light." That reminds me of, you know, the visual of Gatsby being on the new money side and Daisy being on the old money side, and like it's literally across the divide. The other reference, and the big one, is the green light of forgiveness. There's no way that that is not inspired by the Great Gatsby. Okay, the next one, I literally can't even believe I'm saying this. But I wrote down Betty, and obviously this is an inspiration, and like not even an inspiration, it's just something that reminds me of this song because Betty is, you know, part of the like trilogy of songs, like the love triangle thing in folklore. But when I heard Betty, it gave me such like Boy Next Door, or no, Girl Next Door, and like heartthrob boy vibes. And then the song was called Betty. I think you can see where I'm going with this. I was a big Riverdale fan season 1 and 2, and then it got interesting and I stopped watching it. But the song reminds me of Riverdale 1 and 2. Big yikes. Partly because it's called Betty, but like it just kind of reminds me of like the vibe of like high school season 1 Riverdale, especially. You cannot lie, season 1 of Riverdale was excellent, and then it just kind of was on a downward spiral. But I loved season 1, and I also loved season 2. I watched season 2 when it aired, and I also think I watched almost all of season 3, but I was kind of like hanging on by a thread at that point. And then the only episode that I've watched since then is a Luke Perry tribute episode. So The last one that I want to talk about with you guys is Last Great American Dynasty. So this is such a good song. It's on Folklore, very underrated I feel like, but it's basically about the history of her house in Rhode Island. Recently, I think like a couple months ago, I watched, probably around Halloween if I'm remembering correctly, I watched Rebecca on Netflix with Lily James, which is an excellent movie. It's also a book. I have not read the book, but the movie was excellent. Like, the acting was great. I loved the vibe and the storyline of the movie, and Lily James was really, really good in it. And I love her. I think she is so cool and so gorgeous. In The Last Great American Dynasty, the woman's name is Rebecca, and obviously I watched the movie Rebecca, and I think that kind of fueled the idea of it reminding me of that song. But while I was watching it, I was getting such Last Great American Dynasty vibes. And then I found out in an interview, I can't remember what interview it was, but Taylor said she read Rebecca over quarantine, and I was like, no wonder. Anyway, I thought this would be a fun video idea, and I love connecting stories to other stories. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any thoughts on any other songs, please let me know. I would love to hear them, and I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye!